clock on the factory wall read 2:47 a.m. when I punched out. My boots scuffed the linoleum as I grabbed my jacket, the faint hum of machinery still buzzing in my ears. Night shifts at the plant were brutal, 10 hours of grinding metal and flickering fluorescent lights, but the pay was decent, and I'd gotten used to the quiet loneliness of it. The walk home was the worst part, though. 3 miles through the back roads, no street lights, just me, the trees, and whatever else lurked out there in the dark. I stepped outside, the cold March air biting my face. The parking lot was empty except for a busted pickup that had been there since last summer. Beyond it, the road stretched into a black void, framed by skeletal pines clawing at the sky. My breath puffed out in little clouds as I started walking, the gravel crunching under my soles. The silence was thick, broken only by the occasional rustle of wind or a distant owl. I kept my hands in my pockets, my flashlight dangling from my belt, unlit. I liked to save the battery unless I really needed it. About 10 minutes in, I noticed the fog. It crept up slow, curling around the trees like fingers, turning the road ahead into a gray smear. I cursed under my breath. Fog made the walk feel longer, like the world was closing in. I flicked on the flashlight, its weak beam cutting a shaky line through the haze. The light caught something up ahead, a shape, tall and thin, standing just off the road. I stopped, squinting. A deer, maybe? No antlers, though, and it didn't move like an animal. It just stood there. "Hey," I called, my voice swallowed by the fog. No response. I took a step closer, the beam jittering as my hand shook. The shape didn't budge. It was human-shaped, I realized. Too tall, too still. My stomach twisted. "You okay out there?" I tried again, louder. Nothing. Then, slow as death, it turned its head. I couldn't see a face, just a dark smear where one should have been. But I felt it looking at me. I backed up, heart thudding. "All right, man, you do you," I muttered, turning away. I walked faster, the crunch of gravel loud in my ears. The fog thickened, and I kept the flashlight pointed ahead, refusing to look back. But I could feel it. Something watching, something following. The air got heavier, like it was pressing down on me, and the rustling in the trees wasn't the wind anymore. It was footsteps, uneven and dragging, matching my pace. I told myself it was nothing. A drunk, maybe, stumbling home from some dive bar. Or my imagination, fried from too many late nights. But then I heard it, a low, wet sound, like someone gurgling through a throat full of mud. It came from behind me, close. I spun around, flashlight slashing through the fog. Nothing, just gray emptiness. The sound stopped, but the silence was worse. It felt alive, waiting. I kept moving, faster now, almost jogging. The road curved ahead, and I knew I was about a mile from home, close enough to make it if I didn't stop. But the footsteps started again, louder, wetter, like bare feet slapping mud. I risked a glance over my shoulder. The fog swirled, and there it was, tall, too tall, its head tilted at a wrong angle, arms dangling like they didn't fit its body. It was closer than before, maybe 20 feet back, lurching toward me with that awful, uneven gait. "Leave me alone," I shouted, breaking into a run. The flashlight bounced in my hand, the beam swinging wild. The thing didn't answer, but the gurgling came again, louder, wetter, like it was laughing. My lungs burned, my legs ached, but I didn't stop. The road straightened out, and I could see the faint glow of my porch light in the distance. Home. I just had to get there. The footsteps sped up. They were right behind me now, slapping the ground, splashing like they were dragging through puddles that weren't there. I didn't look back. I couldn't. The gurgling turned into a rasp, a wordless hiss, so close I swore I felt damp breath on my neck. My house was 50 yards away, then 30, then 10. I fumbled my keys, dropped them, scooped them up with a sob, and slammed into the door. My hands shook as I jammed the key in, twisted it, and stumbled inside. I locked the door, deadbolt and all, and pressed my back against it, panting. The house was dark, silent except for my ragged breathing. I waited, listening. Nothing. No footsteps, no gurgling, just the hum of the fridge in the kitchen. I slid to the floor, laughing shakily. "Get a grip, man," I whispered. "You're losing it." Then something scratched at the door. It was slow at first, a faint scrape, like nails on wood. I froze, staring at the knob. The scratching got louder, faster, digging into the door like it wanted in. I grabbed my phone, hands trembling, and dialed 911. The line crackled, a voice cutting in. "Emergency services, what's—" Then static. The call dropped. I tried again. Nothing. The scratching stopped, and for a second, I thought it was over. Then the window above the sink shattered. Glass sprayed across the kitchen, and that gurgling hiss filled the room. I bolted upstairs, slamming my bedroom door and shoving the dresser against it. My flashlight was still in my hand, its beams shaking as I aimed it at the door. The house went quiet again, but I could hear it. Something moving downstairs, slow and deliberate, dragging itself across the floor. The stairs creaked one by one, each step louder than the last. I don't know how long I sat there back against the wall, waiting. The creaking stopped just outside my door. I held my breath, the flashlight flickering, battery dying. Then, soft as a whisper, the gurgling started again, right on the other side of the wood. It didn't knock. It didn't push. It just waited. The flashlight died, plunging me into darkness. I didn't move, didn't breathe. The gurgling faded and the silence came back, heavy and thick. I stayed there till morning, till the first gray light crept through the window. When I finally opened the door, the house was empty. No broken glass, no scratches on the door, just my keys on the floor where I dropped them. I haven't walked home since. I don't know what it was or why it stopped, but every night when I lock up, I hear it, just for a second, that wet, gurgling rasp, like it's still out there, waiting for me to step into the fog again.